G'day legend, Sunken Dutchman here, and we have finally a cracker day. Sun is out, no wind, well, little wind, but yeah, we've had such a horrible run of weather lately, just like big winds, rain, swell, and it's all meant that, at least where I am, the viz has been shit. So, looking forward to getting in the water here. Don't know what the viz is going to be like, because we have had a bit of rain, but hopefully it's been long enough since that rain that we've got some viz and it's workable. So meeting a couple of the boys down here and we're going to jump in. Fingers crossed we get some flatties or some squid or something like that. But I will see you underwater. Cheers. When we got out to the grounds that we wanted to hunt, we realised that the viz was only just workable. If you were super shallow, like 1.5 metres, it was fine, but anything sort of deeper than 2 meant that you had to duck dive down to get a good look at the bottom. Now, when I'm hunting flathead, I don't love that scenario because it means that you are down on the bottom, and if you approach a fish, you got to rise back to the surface if you're at the end of your breath hold before you shoot it, and it gives them the opportunity to cotton on to what you're doing and potentially bolt. The scenario that I hate actually presented itself here. I had duck dived down under the water and swum directly over the top of this fish. So I floated to the surface, but when the time came to have my shot, the fish had already cottoned onto me, and as soon as I did my second dive down to line up on it, it boofed and got out of the picture.
How are ya? Hey?
I'm good, how are you?
Oh mate, I've been swimming around for about 2 hours, haven't seen one until about 10 seconds ago, huge, and because it's a bit milky, I've been diving down, and then I dove down, noticed it, slowly hovered to the top, and then I was like floating over the top of it, breathing up. I had to duck dive down again to see it, to shoot it, but it knew that I was there, so I was just like, boof, gone. What about you?
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
It had been a very slow afternoon. I'd swum around for about 3 hours and only managed to see that one fish that I'd spooked. And by this stage, the sun was starting to set, which made it even more difficult to see. It was kind of like that period just before last light. So I bunged the torch on and continued my search. And then after about another 20 minutes, finally I came across another fish. This fish was sitting out in the open and I hadn't duck dived down and spooked it yet, so I was able to float over next to it and approach it from the side. And considering this was the first attempt or the first time I'd hovered over the fish, I was in a much better position to shoot it and land it. Once I got this fish in my hands, I was pretty quick to gut it and bleed it. I like to do the gutting in the water, not only because it saves a bit of mess at home, but also because you're sort of giving back to the ecosystem. The guts will get gobbled up by either some other fish or some crabs, and it'll go back into the food chain. And another thing that I like to do with flatties is I like to give the kidneys, which is the red line on the bottom side of the spine, a bit of a rub. It helps get the blood out, and I just think it makes for a better eating fish. After the pretty slow start, it was good to get onto that flatty. It gave me a little bit of a morale boost. Often the case when you shoot a fish, you get a bit of a pep up and you think, oh, I'm going to come on a hot streak here. But it wasn't too long after that I actually drifted over a snapper. This snapper was parked up just on some tall grass, but I didn't notice it until the very last second and drifted right over the top of it. So by the time I shot it, I hadn't managed to turn my camera on. So unfortunately, I didn't get that on camera. After I shot that snapper, the sun had fully set. I swam around for about another half an hour and didn't see anything. So I made the call to head in. But lucky enough for me, on the way back in, I came across this little sand flatty parked up and managed to get a shaft in him. So another one fish to the catch bag and a good result before I got out of the water. Okay, so we are back home the next day and I'm going to show you guys how I fillet up snapper. This is a beautiful looking little snapper, looks like a really healthy fish, beautiful. I love the blue markings and stuff they get through their scales, it's gorgeous. But I'm going to show you how I fillet this up. It's not the only way it can be done, but it's how I do it. First things first, I like to separate the collar and the head meat. So this has got the scales on it, so it's very hard to cut if you tried to cut straight through. If you put your knife on an angle and go underneath the scales, you can get underneath it and then trace that meat all the way behind the head. I also take it and I just go out through the bottom there, and that separates the collar. Once I get to the head, I flip my knife around and I just trace the backbone. Again, this fish has been sitting overnight, which makes it a little bit easier to fillet, firms up the flesh. If you've ever tried to fillet a fresh fish, it's way more difficult. Once you've got a little bit of purchase or a little bit, you've made an opening, you can just go on that opening and just trace against the backbone. Very easy. You want your knife to bead across that. Once you've got a little bit of purchase, you can lift up the skin to see what you're doing. So you're trying to get nice and close up against the skeleton of the fish. You want to maintain as much meat as possible on your fillet. And you can see there that I am now along the backbone. Right? That there. Once you're on the backbone, I like to just, with the tip of my knife, I'm just tracing over the top. And once I get to the other side, you can then go hard down and out through the bottom. Just clean the scales off the knife. And then you want to just trace the other side. Again, you want to stay nice and close to the skeleton so you don't lose any of that delicious meat. Now this is a small snapper, so I'm just going to cut straight through the rib bones and the pin bones. And then I can separate them later. But that's one side of the snapper off. Now, snapper are nice with the skin on, but in this instance, I'm actually going to take the skin off this snapper. That's why I left the scales on, because it's easier to skin with the scales on. To skin the fish, once you've got a little bit of purchase underneath, you want to just grab that skin, hold it flat against the cutting surface, and just wiggle the skin and the fillet, and it should separate nicely. Just got a bit on the edge there, and that's a beautiful fillet there with the skin off. Get rid of that for you. Just clean up my hands. The last bit will be to take out these rib bones and get rid of this membrane. First I'll just go behind the pin bones, and then I'll go down the other side straight through the ribs and cut those pin bones out. Now I've got a cat and a dog and they love these little bits. If it was a bigger fish, you'd probably keep it because you can smoke up all that, and yeah, it comes up nice. But this being such a small one, it'll go to the cat and the dog. And I'm just taking off the ribs here. Again, that'll go to the cat and the dog. And that's let's trim it up. That's one fillet there, skinless, boneless, beautiful eating, ready for the pan. Get out there, give it a go, get yourselves a feed. Cheers, legends.